Hey everyone, how are you? It's Thursday as I shoot this video. I wanted to do a brief video today. I'm between night shifts at work. I wanted to talk a little bit about stress and fatigue, how that affects me, ways that I get around it, and ways that I use martial art concepts and ideas to battle when I'm stressed. So I guess, it's like that saying, life evokes character. So the more life experiences and stresses we have, the more our characters are revealed to us. And that's very, very true. But at the same time, we need to be aware when we're stressed. I know that sounds silly because when we're stressed, we generally, we feel sort of the weight of the world crashing in on us. But I don't know about you, I tend to sometimes, when I'm super stressed, I kind of am in this haze. And something happened to me yesterday which is so unbelievably rare. I was just on my way to my night shift at work. I had the boot of my car open and someone walked past me. Now, I know that may sound just a simple everyday thing, but I live in a relatively quiet area, and I'm not 99% of the time always aware of my surroundings. It's 30 years of teaching self-defense. I'm always switched on, keeping my peripheral vision up, and I wasn't, and I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. And I actually found myself not appreciating the fact of a combination of not getting an awful lot of sleep and also lots of different things bubbling around in my mind. I didn't appreciate that I was switched off to my environment, both outer and inner. And it was a lesson for me. We're always getting these lessons. We have never become. We're always becoming, as my friend Andy says. So I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I've been teaching this stuff for years. I was switched off in that moment. And I tend to think that I have good awareness of when I'm stressed and things that I pull back on. A really good example of this is exercise. So it wasn't really until I started monitoring my heart rate that I tended to train harder when I was stressed. I almost would try and kind of like run and sweat it out, and it kind of like I thought that was a really, really good thing. It wasn't really till I started really getting to zone 2 training and I had a heart rate that I didn't want to go over. I was amazed at how much easier it was for me to go over my heart rate when I was stressed. And so I decided to adopt an attitude of training that when I know I've got a lot going on, whether they're good stresses or bad stresses, whatever it is, there's a certain feeling which you become aware of the more that you do it. And I tend to pull back a little bit more on my training and exercise, make sure that I am kind to myself and that I'm listening to my body. Because a lot of the time, excuse me, a lot of the time when we're stressed, what tends to happen is we tend to go into our head. And when we go into our head, we tend to start running old programs which don't serve us very well, where really the body knows what to do. So I try in those moments, just like in the stresses of combat, to actually get out of my head, feel my breath, feel the energy and the power in my body, and bring an awareness back to this switched on present moment. I know it sounds very cliched, but it really is something which for me works, and I'd encourage you to do the same. So if you know you're stressed, if you've got a heart rate monitor or a heart rate watch or anything like that, it would be interesting for you to see when you actually fluctuate over this, especially when you're doing zone 2, so 180 beats minus your rate per minute roughly. But just in general, it's about being kinder and nicer to yourself when you are aware you've got lots of other bits and pieces which is going on. The other thing as well that I try to do is I have to have an intention to do this. I try and be extra switched on in these moments to the things which are potentially harming the way that I feel, not so much in my head but my body. Food is a big one. So the next thing I pay attention to is where am I at with my food, And can I tell you what foods just don't agree with me? And does that change when I'm stressed? It tends to, and it tends to be the foods that I want to eat, sort of bread and things like that, where I can kind of get away with it a little bit. I tend to lead a kind of health lifestyle of, I try not to have too many grains. I try and have fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, meats, healthy oils, such as coconut oil, butter, eggs. Try and stay away from too much grain-wise. But I also do believe that we need a balance. But when I'm stressed, I tend to go more to these kind of groups, and I feel lousy afterwards. So I have to be switched on. I have to understand that this is one of my little inner dragons. One of my little inner dragons is it lies in waiting till I'm in that moment, and then it really tries to get me to eat a lot of sugar. And I have to go. I have to be like, oh, I see what you're doing. I see you there. I see what you're trying to do. And this is something which really then helps this concept which we spoke about, that Derren Brown talked about, which is the remembering self. Honor the remembering self. We have these two selves. We have the person in the moment, the experiencing self that wants these things. We also have that person later on that is going to look back. And if you can look back feeling good about these decisions which you were able to choose the correct path on, well, then guess what? Your sense of self-worth goes up, and you're much more likely to get these things which help battle those dragons. So it's really handy to know what your dragons are when you're stressed. Remember, if you find one of these, it's not about to feel guilty about it. We all have these dragons. The main thing is you want to celebrate finding them, because saying a dragon is hard enough, but saying an invisible one, yeah, that's really, really, really tough. So yes, when stressed and when tired, I am aware, and yesterday was a perfect example, that we're all these different people, and if we're not switched on, if we're not aware, yeah, obviously it was just someone that was walking past me, but what other things do we tend to switch off from when we're a little bit tired, a little bit burnt out, a little bit stressed? And obviously going for goals and trying to achieve different things, it is going to bring these stresses on. So I really encourage you to be kinder to yourself when that happens. Celebrate the small victories. Remember to honor the remembering self. Try and actually look to the future you, looking back on where you are now, knowing that you've got to the end of the day and you said, yeah, do you know, I did good today. Today was a tough day, but you know what? I did okay. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit of a ramble today because I am quite tired, but be kind to yourself. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.